Hi. Let me give you a little introduction about this thing. I'm going to be presenting a little project that I had for the last 2 years called CEPB. It's spelled C-E-P-B, which actually comes from Commodore C equal plus plus. C equal standing for Commodore. It's a project about making a C++ compiler for Commodore. And the little history is this. Well, I'm a demo coder, and I have made a few demos over the last few years. And when I first started making demos in 2003, I initially thought that there weren't anyone interested in games or any utilities anymore in the world. I thought the only active people that were using the Commodore now was just the demo scene people who were watching demos. So I spent a few years doing demos and focusing on them. But then at some point, an Australian guy called goes with the handle A Life in Hell came up with a game magazine back in 2000 something. Okay, I'm back. This new, he doesn't call himself senior, but this guy started making this disc mag called Game Overview, which was about games. So, and he published this mag monthly, regularly, without missing a month, for more than 2 years. And what he would do is he would go and find these games that were made during that month, the recent month, and write reviews about them. Well, most of the games would be pretty bad. Sometimes some of the games would be good. And it was kind of a controversial mag in that it had a very strong language. The guy had very strong opinions about, oh, you shouldn't bother doing it if you're doing a game if you're doing it this bad, or something like. Sometimes he would have these whole paragraphs of cursing against the author and stuff. But I mean, it was a very fun mag, and I think he did a good job. And he actually inspired me. So I mean, the reason I'm referring to him right now is that he was the reason that inspired me into making games. So back in 2005, I started I wanted to make a strategy game on Commodore 64, which is kind of follow the idea of the SimCity type of games. It's a city building strategy game that I started making. And as I was making it, I came to the in fact, in Vegas Expo 05, I showed some parts of it to some of the friends there. But as I was working on that game, I came to a realization. And the realization is that when you're making a game on the Commodore 64, the type of the game is important. If the game is kind of an action game where you're controlling a character, moving across the screens, shooting enemies coming at it like by hundreds, and you come to the end of the level, you kill the boss, you come to the next level. That kind of game requires speed. So assembly is really good for that kind of game. Writing the game in machine code works well in those cases. But in many of those games, you'll also notice that usually the artificial intelligence of the enemy doesn't exist. Basically, they're dumb enemies that come at you at certain patterns always. So you can basically memorize a game and stuff like that. And one reason for that is assembly is pretty bad at writing logic in. So it is hard to program an artificial intelligence in machine language. Same thing goes for a lot of aspects of when there's more and more logic is in strategy game, it becomes really hard and error prone to try to write it in machine language. And that is what I faced with my city building game called Anatolian Governor. And at that point, I decided to go and make a higher level language compiler for making my games, because I decided, hey, I'm going to be making more games like this, so I better have a compiler. And there was no C++ compiler, so I decided to make it. And it's not a 100% C++ standard compliant compiler. It is really a lower subset, a smaller subset of C++ is supported. But I tried to make some design decisions here and there, and to implement some of the features of C++ that aren't too hard on a machine like C64, but that still give me the necessary functionality. So I have been, like I said, I've been working on this for 2 years and on and off. The compiler itself is actually complete for more than 7-8 months now, but I haven't been able to release it yet because I don't have any documentation. Because I need to write something like a 30 to 50 pages documentation that explains what in C++ I'm not supporting with this compiler, what am I supporting. There are minor few Commodore-specific additions to the language that I had to make things fast. So I need to document all these, and hopefully sometime I'll be able to document it and release it to the general public too. But as a proof of concept, I went ahead and coded a bunch of test C++ programs or SEP programs. But I also went ahead and coded a game, a Tetris clone basically, with C++. And what I'm going to show you here is it's a little bit of its source code, and it's the game itself. So the source code to it looks something like this. Well, I call it Septris. Very clever names, aren't they? Use some syntax I like to. Okay, I don't know if you can see, but if you look closer to the code, you'll see that it is C++ code combined. There are classes. There's, for example, in Tetris, there are classes called. I have a class called block with methods, can rotate, can move, rotate, settle, stuff like that. I have a class called piece, which is the 4-block piece that can come the long piece, the triangular ones, and stuff like that. So I have another class. So I declare my classes like I would in C++. There's a piece factory class that creates pieces. There's the val class. Now the val, as I'm here, one important thing in my compiler is that you can actually write a class interface in the compiler, and you can write the actual body of those methods in assemblers. So you can write actual assembly machine language code and make it look like a C++ class to the rest of your program. This gives a very good opportunity of optimization for something. So even though I tried hard to make the compiler very optimized, still most of the time when you create a piece of code using C++, and my compiler will generate about twice as slow a code as you would get when you actually went and custom wrote that class by hand in machine language. So, I mean, that's the price you pay using higher level languages most of the time. But as far as the higher level languages go, this is a pretty good performance compared to like basic and stuff.
So, in essence, you have wrote basically coding. So if you wrote the code in C++,
yeah,
to get the bulk of the work done, and you
yes,
optimize
exactly, yes,
ML.
Exactly, yes. Especially some things related to the VIC programming, the graphics programming side of things, might require cycle exact code, or they might require certain fast accesses to the registers and stuff. In those cases, it would be more. I mean, I could try. For example, maybe you have heard of the language slang. That's by Steve Jobs, I think. Yeah. I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but that language has a lot of extensions. For example, for VIC programming. I mean, he came up with a language of his own, so he designed the language. He's not following an existing language like I'm doing here. So he has like special functions that do special Commodore 64 related stuff. that you can pass arguments into that are optimized. So that works for his case. In my case, if I try to come up with a certain optimization, it would not be a definitive closed problem. I cannot do that for every case under the sun. So that's the way I chose. Instead, I give you the ability to make your machine language code look like C++ code.
The programmer make his own custom assembly code to
exactly. Yes.
As he sees fit.
Yes. So for most of the time, if there's really hard performance requirement piece of code, they'll end up doing it in machine language. But they'll be able to do more logically complicated logic blocks, if then else, structures, more object-oriented, object creation, deletion type of problems. They can all sort that out in C++.
Like their AI in the C++.
Yes, exactly.
Their raster generator interrupts and all that stuff.
Exactly.
In ML.
That is the goal. That is the goal. That is one of the biggest goals in this is to have an ability to create smarter enemies in the game story. And also take care of the situations where in games where you create, for example, in real-time strategy game, where you create buildings get crushed, destroyed. You create other buildings get destroyed. You create units get killed. There's a constant creation and deletion of objects that is very much an object-oriented problem in the programming world, whereas assembly is not very suitable for handling those things. So now with this, hopefully you will be. Well, actually, one funny piece of folklore here is when I was writing the Septris program, the blocks are dynamically managed. So when you create a new piece, it starts falling from the top. It is nude in the C++ sense. It's a new object that is newly created. So one typical problem that never happened before in Commodore 64, but happens all the time on other platforms when you're using C++, is that you run into memory leakages. That happens when you constantly create objects, you start eating memory, and if you have forgotten to delete the objects when you're done with them, that's called a memory leakage, and your memory spending goes up, and finally it consumes all of your memory and you crash or something.
Memory overload.
So I actually, when writing the Tetris program, I made a mistake and I ran out of memory, and I had a memory leak. So I might have the first memory leak in the history of Commodore 64 programming during this during this project. So
was the error message out of data?
No, well, I had like I had a piece of code that checked for the return, which is typical practice in real C++ programming too, for the return value from the new object created. And if it was null, it meant memory was out. So when it returned null, I painted the border red, so I knew that I was. So yeah, it was fun, and so that's how it works. And in this game, the val, which takes care of rendering of the actual blocks inside the visual thing you see when you play Tetris, that class is actually in machine code. So this is the interface to that. And after this, what you do is you go to a console and you basically type sep is the name of the program, and you type in the main the source file you want to compile. In fact, at the time of this, I didn't have the ability to add the pre-processing to it, so all the classes had to be in one same file back then. That's why I have all those classes in one file here. But later on, I started adding the GNU C++ compiler, GNU CPP pre-processing to it. So now you can use input files and multiple files, and it's going to create multiple files for you. So what you do is you create this, and it compiles, and you can see 314 commands and 171 temporary variables optimized away, which is one thing I'm pretty happy with. Well, you don't know how many existed at the beginning, so it's not very useful information. But before I added the optimizer step several months ago, this code would have created a piece of code with 300 more statements in it. So the optimizer is now able to take so much code out of it. And after you do this, it spits out a piece of file in machine language, an assembly language file, like that looks like this. And I use someone else's cross assembler tool to assemble the machine language code, which is called Acme by Marco Gaia. And I create output compatible with that cross assembler, and you can use that to compile the output file. So in this case, I'm doing that. So once it's created, then I can go and execute the program itself in Videographer. And you'll see this is the Tetris. I basically have the... So this kind of proves the concept of, okay, I make this work well enough that it has now been used in one completed game project. Even though Tetris is not a good example, I mean, it's not a perfect game to show whether the compiler is performant or not. I mean, if I made the compiler 10 times slower, generate code 10 times slower, Tetris would still be playable and you would notice, but still, I mean, it's something. And yeah, that's basically it. That's the end of the presentation. So any questions, comments?
So yeah, one of the things that's, like you mentioned, the logic is like games that were, like porting some of these games that from PC to Commodore takes a lot of logic.
Yeah.
Take a simple game like Doom.
Yeah.
Simple for a PC, but not quite so simple.
Yeah.
If you take it from Windows to Commodore, it's not as simple as...
Yeah. Well, in case of Doom, there's also the graphic, I mean the raycaster, well, I have coded the raycaster in one of my earlier demos back in 2005. And just being able to make a character walk inside the holes, like inside the rooms, is quite hard in Commodore and requires a lot of memory optimizations and stuff that you have to do. But yeah, I mean now it is possible to actually do that part in machine language and then do the AI of the guys, the enemies, and
probably makes some form of something like that even easier to let it be a AI quite as sophisticated as Doom or something in between.
Yeah.
Type thing. Be much more easier to get better, fire steam, names with it.
And one additional comment I have on that is usually in a game like Doom, the AI of a single enemy can be handled maybe with assembly language too, but the bigger challenge is, I think, in the strategy kind of games. For example, in a real-time strategy game, like I said, the dynamic handling of objects getting created and deleted all the time. If you were to do it on machine language, you would have to manually handle certain lists, certain pointers, objects getting used. You would have to mark the objects that are. I mean, you can't control memory like you would in a PC. So you need to use some other ways, which like actually SEP does that. SEP doesn't use a heap like PC, C++ compilers. It instead creates pools of objects. And you actually define in the class, in the code, how many objects at any time you can have at a number of maximum. So you can create 1,000 soldiers and you can delete 1,000 soldiers, but any given time you can say, for example, I'm not going to have more than 32 soldiers or 128 soldiers.
So, like making the maps, when you make those, one of the things I remember in the docs and stuff I do is about these map zones. I mean, map zones would have some information about how many characters might be in that area.
Exactly, yes. So that kind of handling should be a lot easier now. A programmer trying to manage dynamic object creation and deletion on machine language would be a lot more error prone to facing a lot more problems to debug than a programmer using set.
So,
that's my hope.
Any feature on this for possible working with like a super CPU kind of system? It
currently creates 6502 compatible code. Currently, I don't have any intention of creating code that takes advantage of a super CPU. By default, super CPU will be able to run 6502 code. That's the extent I'm currently planning. But I'm also adding I'm planning to add some libraries to this that will come with the compiler actually. Things like a simple console library that lets you, if I had that actually I could then easily document stuff. I could have a hello world program, for example. I currently can't because there is no console. But I'll basically have a library of classes whose interfaces are in C++, whose innards are in machine language that a user can quickly use to build some of the main functionality of their programs. That's the plan I have.
Bilden, is this game here released already, Sceptris?
No, it's not released.
Oh, it's not yet.
Yeah, it's
world premiere.
Yeah, it is actually
Pre-premiere.
first time that I'm showing it to anyone but me. So yeah, it is world premiered at MossyCon.
It's ready to go, so it's playable right now?
Yes, it is. It is playable. The thing that what I wanted to do was to release this with the first version of the compiler that included the documentation that I told I'm missing. So that's the missing piece right now. As soon as I have the documentation, I'll be able to release this officially.
It's basically a proof of concept for his compiler.
Yeah.
Right. When do you think you'll be finished with documentation?
I should have been finished long ago. I really don't know. Yeah.
About the same time Jerry gets finished with once for the
Well, I mean, I unfortunately currently have a few more high priority projects than this, than the documentation one. So, I don't know, I'm hoping before the end of this year. One target date I have in mind is COMEX, possibly. Another target date I have in mind is X 2008 demo party in Europe, in Poland, which is in October. So I'll try to hit one of those 2 dates at least. But yeah.
Hey, if you make it for comics, it'll be great.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. I mean, this has been quite hard for me actually. I mean, I have put a lot of sweat into this over the years, and it kind of blocked everything. I was very bad at estimating how much work this was going to be. I actually completed the compiler code itself to an 80% completion point in about 2 months, in the first 2 months. Then I realized, how do I ever test this? Like, how do you test the compiler? I wrote one thing that works okay. I mean, how many different programs can programmers write in the world, and how much of it I can test, you know? So actually testing a compiler proved to be a really hard problem. So I had to actually build a whole set of test programs for this that run nightly, and that they run automatically every night. And whenever I make, well, I don't make changes that often anymore, so it's kind of pointless. But when I was making changes, if I made a mistake that broke a program, I would go the next day, kind of thing. But that test work just blew up so much, and it blocked me. I haven't been able to release the demo for the last 2 years. I haven't released anything that is worthy of a demo scene point of view product. in the last 2 years because of this. So I really want to get this off my chest and back, but I don't know when.
When you do release it, to where will you release it? Somewhere on the net?
Yeah, I'll probably have a dedicated page for this with the documentation and maybe a few tutorials, some example code that I use in the test that already exists. So really the only missing piece is, I mean, if I had the 50-page documentation here right now, I'd be releasing it tonight. So I have everything else pretty much ready. And then, like I said, that page should be a place where I will keep adding new library routines there. Hopefully I can, if this produces enough interest from the community, other coders can add library code to this too, so that there's some kind of reusable code in that library. So that's how.
Okay, thank you very much, Bill.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Okay, now the trip is that I don't program yet. Can't draw, not even fly on a hot July day in Atlanta, Georgia, but I can blabble really nicely. So what we created was an experiment. Initially we wanted to present the adventure I wrote for Lodestar in booklet format. It's kind of in booklet format, we just didn't get a chance to get it photocopied out. It's 96 pages, written in GeoS, in GeoWrite 2.1 on a 128, and with GeoPaint. The maps were made with GeoPaint. The text was printed out with the maps after running all 96 pages of it through post-print, because it appears there's like 63-page limit in GeoWrite. So the concept was, well, this isn't going to work, we can't afford to print it out. Is it really possible to take a GeoS file and make it into a PostScript file that can be seen by other systems? So I tried it, and I sent a copy to our number 8 Destin, who was able to see it. Unfortunately, the system I used says there was only one file there. When he converted that file to a PDF, all 15 files were there. Well, the adventure turned out to become 1.27 megabytes in a PostScript file, 7.7 megabytes when converted to PDF. It took a long time, but our treasurer who's in Iraq got a copy of it. Completely amazing, got it. Coming with that idea, we said, well, why don't we put a bunch of stuff on the disk and we can burn CDs? That took until 3 o'clock this morning. So what became of all of this is we do a lot of writing in regards to our role-playing game group. This being a first edition AD&D adventure, we popped it on the disk. Well, that wasn't enough. So we decided, okay, let's put on the Operation Red Cat story that I wrote for Lodestar. And we made those into zipped up D64s using the passing system. Okay, we need a few more things. So I created, by simply using a tool off of Lodestar number 77, the Quest Writer, I attempted to make 3 simple games. Okay, so I'm overcomplicating the situation and had to start all over again after waiting a week's worth of work. Not that anybody here who programs knows about that much. So I kind of lamented a straight dungeon crawl and tried to rely more on coloring the encounters and the stories and hiding a few things you have to look for, and it's pretty much a straight dungeon delving game. There's one based on the All Flesh Must Be zombie game, one based on the High Colonies science fiction game, and one based on our traditional old friend Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So those are put onto one side of the disc, and on the other side, I basically, to demonstrate the R Trying to Learn program, took a file that was originally called Monster Maker from QLink, was put up there around 1988, which I pulled down and have been messing with to learn how to program in BASIC, tightened the coding up a little bit, unremmed some things that were remmed, added some things that fit more to our game world, and put some variables that should have been in one order that weren't back in the right order, and made it work. That system can be utilized for first edition AD&D, put all your monster stats in, and then put in a descriptive lines underneath it up to 40 lines. The original was 11, dimmed out. After working with it, we've learned a bit about how to put files to and from disks, and then I figured out that since it's simple variables that can stay the same, you can trim the lines out and rewrite the words on the lines. You can actually modify this to create and store creatures, oppositions, possibly even items, for pretty much the entire vastment of dice role-playing games. So I did a few out of a couple of old books I have that were out of print, and then a handful that came out of my mind, threw them on the disc and said, hey, throw in a how-to, and zipped it up. Now, speaking of the zipping, we use the Posse zip tool, which basically takes from the 1571 that I was using in 64 mode on the 128, straight over onto my FD, and it not only zips up the files, but it also makes a D64 file, so we call them zip D64s, all in one unit. Now, obviously, I hope we can keep referring to this, a CD. As far as I know, we can't burn CDs with the Commodore yet. Give us time, we'll figure it out. So what I had to do was take these and put the files onto the 3.5-inch heretical formatted disk and take them upstairs to my Linux system and see if they existed. They did. How I did that was I used GeoDOS and put my system in 40 column, used GeoDOS, opened it up, tried to format, got it. Disk is formatted now as a heretical thing, copy the files over. And let's say it takes a lot longer to copy files with that system than it does with the straight pull and drag in GeoDOS. So everything on here was done on the Commodore, except for the actual transferring the files off of the disk onto the desktop and then using the Linux tool to make them into PDFs. So I basically decided, why should I make you sit around and try to dig up somehow and use files or whatever and look at them in GeoDOS format. The biggest thing on here is a 670-page story, which is originally done in 119 installments, written in EdStar and placed on 51 discs, 1541 discs that were coming out every month for the users group. We converted that using Wrong is Right to GeoWrite. Then our deputy librarian spent weeks and some sleepless nights converting it all from 40 columns to 80 dot per inch, because there's no global, so that had to be done sentence at a time. I laid it out after attempting to spell check. Didn't have time to do a good proofreading, or any proofreading. Okay, didn't proofread it. And with arthritic fingers, the keys didn't hit right. So it's there, it needs to be updated, redone, cleaned up. But it was converted from PET to GeoWrite 80 columns, laid out in PostScript, at approximately 60 pages an installment, put to a disk, taken up, converted in from disk onto the desktop, and turned into a PDF file. And there's a few more things on here with other stories, but the main point is there is some adult story written material on here. I'm going to give the warning, there is some adult story material on here, or adult themes, or however they want to call it. Man, some of the sex scenes are exceptionally descriptive.
Oh, wow.
What I brought also with us is the other thing I was telling you about, those text files, those text adventures and the monster file. We put them on the disk, which, okay, I cheated and used our regular penny farthing disk sleeve thingamajiggy and rewrote the cover. You know, the trip is done with and on Commodore equipment. The only non-Commodore piece of equipment that was utilized was the Optra 40 from Lexmark, inkjet printer that does PostScript so I could print the sleeves and stuff out. On that note, We have questions? This is the question period. Now, if you don't get my questions right, I give the whole speech over again.
Are the games full of mystery and periods of action, or how complicated are the games? Do you really have to know, certain commands, or
fortunately, the Quest Rider program that came out at that time period is made for ignorant, dumb orcs.
All right.
Well, actually, the Quest Rider, because although you have some secret component parts to be vague sounding, because it's in the last part of the entire thing, it's something called conditions in the Rider manual, where you actually have, if you do this from this doorway before this is done, and drop this item off into this room, then this effect will not take place. I didn't really have the time in the last 2 weeks to, after everything fell apart, going back together again, to really evolve into that aspect. So it's a simple dungeon, no matter what theme story is for the game. It's a dungeon developer. The nice part about it is, besides the fact that I wrote on the file, in the README file, the instructions of go everywhere, look at everything, use everything, no matter how silly it is. I mean, in one adventure, the only way you're going to get the story in the Dungeons and Dragons adventure is when you rescue the elven priestess on the 4th level of the dungeon, who's waiting to be sacrificed to the evil set god. You've got to get her. So you have to type the command, get priestess. Sounds good so far. The only way she's going to talk to you is if you use it. So you've got to type in, use priestess. Now fortunately, these commands are listed right on the screen.
Very good.
The program has them right there, so you don't have to sit there and try to go like an Infocom game. Vocab? What the smeg? Can I hit a tracking sector and open it? If you don't work, I'm going to threaten you with a first term electronics student with a soldering iron. That's plugged in. I'm kind of put off with text games because, okay, has anyone ever wanted to play 2 days in a row an Infocom game called Myst, and you can't get past the first part because you're supposed to beep the horn? You have absolutely no idea, wouldn't even accept the word honk, horn
I can't
in the
get
game
past
vocabulary.
I can't get past the first part of Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. I'm always being killed right there at the very beginning. How do I get past this guy? I don't know.
Pretty good with Leather Goddess of Football. Cheat and play the female character. That's a cheat there for you.
That's how many of you guys got
But
started
no,
off?
the adventure, the 3 games are rather straightforward. I will say that the first one, which is called Black Cat, which is based on the High Colonies RPG from Waterford Publications, that's this out of print. That might be the longest one to play. There's more encounters in one area. While the dungeon adventure is on 4 levels, it's a very short section. In this adventure unit in the creator, you can have 255 encounters per level. And you can have 4 levels. It contains a file for 64 objects, which sometimes when you pick them up, does say that. The object can be invisible, which means you have to hit the look command to find it. And it doesn't do anything until you pick it up. The program also contains what they call 40 conditions. Now, in this thing, you've got to get, it doesn't matter that you get the princess, you've got to, or the priestess, or you find the documents to prove who the traitor is in the one adventure. Or you find the medkit, you find the shotgun, and you find the key card, and all that in the other adventure. It's, how many points did I assign to this stuff? Need 100 points to win. So, taking out the bad guy may get you points. Whoever the bad guy is, that's got to attack you. Taking out the trap, because you still got to attack the trap, to get rid of it, doesn't get you points. Now, is that green card you pick up in one adventure worth points, or was it the disc that you found? And when I was working through it, I have to math out about 120 points. Just in case you go this way and don't go this way, you still have enough to get, otherwise you got to back up, go around. So in a way, it's a balance in programming in that aspect. Plus, since I love making intersections, three-way, four-way intersections. You know, you're picking around, you're looking at things, reading the text, which is to set the suspense, to set the color, to set the tone. And still leave the mystery of, okay, who caused this, why is it here, and can I really get out? Because, yes, the monsters can kill you. So please use the right weapon against the right creature. Okay, basically the weapons have a specific point damage. Creatures can have point damages of 1 to 3, and you have 3 hit points. Please use the 3 hit point weapon against the 3 hit point monster. Do not use the 1 hit point weapon. Because if he's got 3 hit points, he's doing 3 points of damage to you in 1 round. You only have 3 hit points. Good news! You get to go first. Please choose correctly.
Did the members of your group beta test out the games?
Actually, the bloody things weren't done until early this week. But I did play every single one of them. Many times over. Okay, why isn't it there? I know it's there. How do I get this information? I've got to take the marks off the wall and then use them to get the information.
Huh.
Right, let's rewrite that entire section. That didn't make sense. Because I was expecting you to look, you see marks on the wall, and then you get the description. It didn't happen. Either I'm misinterpreting the instructions. But anyway, it shows that what we are trying to do, that we are an active group and we're experimenting and learning. I don't know how well, and definitely not fast enough to satisfy me. Because I want to be able to sit down and in 12 hours program another 8-disc-sided Pool of Radiance theme game.
That's not a lot of work.
Well, I told you I had, you know, high inspirations and desires.
That's a good thing.
That's okay, I'll be more realistic. 15 hours to do the programming.
Well, I think you could probably do enough in 15 hours to make you feel like you're making good progress, that you'll keep actually spending more time. How about that? Does that sound...
Well, in about 15 hours I discovered that I'm still basically learning how to program random number generators. Haven't gotten past it. Haven't figured out graphics yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as programming goes, it can be divided into separate adventures like the games. I mean, learning certain graphic things can be an adventure in itself, but it's not a blocking factor to go and learn something about sound or something about the logic or...
So we're going to get it. I mean, there's a handful of us, but we are dedicated, fanatical role-playing gamers. Now, if I could just tear apart some of those tools for game creation. Didn't put any on the disc because I have to get it back to Kingdom.
Yeah, I was thinking that would probably be a good area to do, is rather than tearing apart other tools, but making your own tools. Because you've got some specific ideas for your games, and I think probably the biggest thrill for you is the content of the game itself, not the underlying. That's
true. The content and the story and the interaction is what gets me, and I'll sacrifice mechanics
for
that aspect of the game.
Yeah.
And, you know, the tools we'd like to make is right now we've been working part-time on trying to make a character generator for the Mercenary Spies and Private Eyes game, and honestly, we started off with section, got it done. I mean, actually number 30 did the beginning work of it. Overnight we brought it back. All I did was color code it and change the border screen, and you know, so we had something a little bit easier. And actually it's this Monster Maker that we modded is where we actually learned how to get the file to the disk and back from the disk. Now, granted, I've learned a little bit more about the random number generator thing with Jiggy, and some DFN thing I found in the program book by accident, and installed it, you know, define the FN thing, and installed that in there, and it actually seemed to work just a bit faster, and also cut off about 2 blocks out of the program. Right now it's only about 27 blocks, you know, we're working on it, trying to learn the dim arrays to be utilized. I mean, It'd be easier if we had a group of people who had experience and who worked with us, but when I got into the group and they made me the president around 95, 96, okay, here's the group, you're the president. Bye, you're on now. And the rats left a sinking ship. So I'm sitting here with, I got a bunch of pirated Commodore Lodestar discs for the disc library, and I got an impression stamp from Commodore Business Authorized User Group.
Oh, wow.
That's it. So everything we've learned has been on hand. I was barely on Q-Link at that time.
Right.
So I had really no internet experience, no access, no nothing. Hell, the first BBS I went onto, I was on an amber screen in 40 column 64 at 300 baud on starter, going to a ANSI board.
Yeah, that didn't work too good, did it?
Not really. I actually defaulted to ASCII, and the guy came on and talked to me. Thankfully, he ran a BBS in the 80s in Portland, and was on 64.
Oh.
So he helped me out, and I got the term program from him that I could use. He's the one that turned me on to Nova Term, and then I got turned on to Des Term, and and that's how we went. But enough on me.
I got a question.
Yeah.
So, I mean, are you looking into actually creating a Commodore 64 role-playing game? I mean, I just want to make sure
Yes,
I
I would
understand
like to
correctly.
create a Commodore 64 role-playing game.
Or are you looking into creating a set of tools that you will be using as a dungeon master during a real role-playing game session with humans?
Okay, partially. We do want to make a role-playing game. Most of the games that we are dealing with are the game's either dead, completely out of print, or the company's gone. I mean, as I was saying, the adventure here that I have is based, called Black Cat, is based on the High Colonies role-playing game. That came out in '88 by Waterford Publications out of Vancouver. They licensed it over to Columbia Games out of Blair, Washington. Blair went under with the collectible trading card collapse. So nobody even knows who has the rights for it. There's no answer for it. Where in a way it's more of a fan scene-based game thing. But we want to work with the mechanics on that. And the thing that I have discovered is the dice rolling mechanics for the games is very, algebraic matrix. You've got standards on your chart. If you're such and such level and you want to hit such and such at this level, you got your matrix numbers there. So Traveler, classic Traveler, is all on D6s. So it's pretty easy to do rolls with on that. We're making a random number generator. Want to put the graphics, but yes, want to make an actual game with graphic images, the whole story, some sound effects. Sure, the standard game format of that has always been pretty much screen, small screen with the adventure, your dialogue text box underneath it of the people that you meet and the things that you see, some sound effects in the background happening, maybe a little chirpy music at the tavern, and on the right hand side is usually your name, part of your names, their status, and their class, the hit points or magic points or whatever they would have for the character. It's just standard 3-base screen. I can live with that. I haven't really seen anything that would be superior to that you could work with. But yes, also want to build tools. Tools because these tools are functional for majorly, they were made, they've been lost, we need to redo them again. Some of them are made incorrectly. I mean, as an example, the role-playing game Top Secret has a good following. There's even a mail list for it at Yahoo. There is only one Top Secret character generation tool. It was on Q-Link. I grabbed it. The guy, whose name is Sargon, made it, blitzed it. Okay, Mad Max opened it up for me. And it starts at like line 8,000 some odd. I think that's where Blitz sticks it. But it's too sensitive on the keystroke. For scrolling through, you want to scroll through, and then it just snaps you out. And it does not take into consideration the companion volume, which has some more stats and some more abilities. It could be kind of like plugged in there. Traveler, classic Traveler, the science fiction game I was talking about earlier, has a lot of books, a lot of charts for dice rolling. In that game, if you want the axial tilt, the temperature in Kelvin, the gravitational vector well, the greenhouse effect, and the albedo effect, you can roll that up. And whether the system is a mono, bi, or trinary star system. Oh yeah, the stellar magnitude and intensity of the star for your charts. Now, like I said, when I was saying about suspended belief, all of these things could be written down for the Commodore. Very somehow compressed, compiled, I don't know what the difference is. But write the program, bring it down, it loads up, and okay, I want to do this chart for rolling up a world, which is like 6 aspects which have to roll up. And it's a simple if-then in a program. And I'm pretty much extending the limits that I understand it. It's a great example of programming is rolling up a world in the classic Traveler game. You've got roll the dice, you're rolling up for planetary size, atmosphere, hydrographics, law level, tech level, government. All of these are dependent on other rolls. So if you roll the such and such, and you go bing, I got a population of such and such. Great. Better have, I got a population of 6 billion. Can't be on that world then, because that world you roll up is a little small planetoid that's 1,000 miles in diameter. So they have these checksums in there. So if you're going to roll up this, boom, you got this, but your modifier is if the planetary size is such and such, then you have to minus off.
Okay.
And that can all be done in a if-then statement sort of thing. Probably an easier way than if-then. Well, yeah, those are the type of tools we would like to make. Or in some instances, actually remake as they've been lost. Never use Raptor version 3 on your files. It kills them. It will put in a null at symbol about halfway through the program. If the program is too large, we use Raptor. Did it, I lost half of my collection.
Oh.
Raptor, that was the slowest thing I ever...
Mad Max was able to open it up and find that and try to rewrite it, but you can only read that because I knew what the program was supposed to do. So, yeah, we would like to do that and get it done and release it. There are people who play the games, there are people who like them. I mean, obviously the people play the games because they're still out there, they're still being played, and they command a large amount of money on eBay as well as on Amazon, as well as on Double Nine Games. They do collect money. And when I can sell a book, when I sell the original Dungeons and Dragons Dungeon Master Guide book, the original cover, they cost 18 bucks. When I first bought it in 1978, and I can get $65 for it in Astoria out of my shop. You know it's worth more on the other market. So, those books are worth something. The people still want to play the games. Just like people still want to use our Commodore computers.
Yeah.
So, I believe that there's still an interest into it because there is a gigantic section of role-playing gaming tools in the Q-Link catalog, which I have another copy of someplace. The Q-Link catalog on role-playing game areas has a large collection of dungeon. In fact, when I was the one that sold the 64 dungeon arcade games off of Q-Link for the preservation group. There is a large collection in the catalog of editors. I mean, we're talking editors for Commodore games themselves. Yes, I do have the one from MossyCon4 Wasteland. And I got a few from EagleSoft for World of Radiance. They level the playing field, okay? I like having 255 hit points, but there was also, there was a tool that, when you understand bitmapping, you would understand much better than I. There was a tool that I saved, but blocks were corrupted, that would do a somewhat blockish adventure map. And he was talking in the docs, I remember something about an overlay bitmap that had to make 2 files when you saved your work. They were brought back together in one look. And if you had a color printer like an Oki Mate 10 with a color cartridge ribbon into it, you could print it out with that. There are these things that are out there, that were out there, that people are interested, still interested in. They're interested in the games, they're interested in the computer. Put the two back together. I mean, I think the biggest thing I ever saw on the Q-Link list was 35 different character record sheet printouts for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, let alone a couple of dozen dice roller programs. What I like most of all is on a Monopoly game where the dice actually roll across the screen and a trapezoidal effect and the numbers show up for you on the pips. It's like that one. It's in the British version of Monopoly. Cool. Any other questions? Like, do we have enough time left on the vid tape?
Sure.
Or is Fat Boy going to keep talking?
I don't know. We have still about 8 minutes left on the video tape. You said you modded the Monster Maker program, or
Yeah,
how
I
did you do
did
that?
Well, I left the original author's name at the bottom.
Okay.
It's a North Star production that we had.
Uh-huh.
It was BD on there. Basically what needed to be done was he had put in a collection of things. It's got to be vague unless you want to be uber specific, and then go with a whole bunch of documentation on uber specific. Where he basically put in a bunch of the stats. Experience points, value, hit die, armor class, how many hit points it has, how frequent the name, all this, treasure type, a few other things. But he had written several of the mounts later in the show. So we removed the rims up there.
Huh.
Then we altered some, added some more that fit our more closer game. Then we had to go down because this thing loops through so many times. It's the one I used to send to RevDay for how to trace the program out, because I had to do it. So I wrote it all down, then wrote it up and sent this down, the program and that writing for RevDay's classic programming for kids. What happened with this is it jumps back and forth so much in the program with certain lines which confuse the whole hell out of you with so many go-tos and ghosts. But wherever it goes, to display the screen, to save to file, or to print on paper, all of the variables have to be in the same order. You have to have armor class, cone speed holder, hit points. Well, a few of those places, they were kind of like reversed around. So we actually had to fix up something that was on that. And it worked. I mean, everything's in the same area. But I've checked that you can check the files with the F4 key and Jiffy DOS. And you'll just get the listing of the monster's name, and then a whole bunch of stats on the side, and the description, because the variable names are actually in the program, will show up in the program, rather than the saved file. Which is why you can only use the files you create from the specific creator. If you alter it, you cannot see those files again. You can only see the new file. That's the problem.
Have you made this available somewhere for people to use?
Well, we're still messing around with it. I'll jump from time to time. We're using it as our basis for learning a bit more about to and from disk. I haven't worked with the printer yet. I have placed it. Hey, it's on the Village BBS on the hard drive in Charlottesville. So, and it was downloaded. It will be on the BBS again. Actually, I had the original on there. The new one will be up there with the original, both. Two files separated. And I hope to have some monsters that I'll be having up there again, written up, so people can download as well. On the new BBS, it's also been on the Penny Farthing ECUG Club Disc. So yeah, it's a gaming tool, and it's for the Commodore. Of course I'm going to pass it around.
Yes.
So, anyone intending to be in Charlotte, Michigan sometime soon? Get that hard drive? Oh.
It's making him give a cost what they want. Further questions, or shall we go to Steve?
So this is basically an SX64 that Robert sold me, I don't know how many years ago, 3 years ago now?
3? I thought it was like 2, but...
Was it 2? Was it?
I don't know, continue. It was at
VCF7?
it was at
I
VCF.
thought it was VCF7.
Oh, okay, well, maybe so.
But anyways, so I immediately had the plan, just doing some modifications to it that I had read about and I thought were really cool. This one is just a little breadboarded dealie that Ray Carlson put together. It's basically a reset circuit. So I installed that on here, and you can see where I had it mounted upside down, and it goes into your little bus connector, and then there's some other wires that run into over here to actually get to the reset switch.
One quick question there, in the previous picture, where did you, is that screw over there something you screwed that?
No, it was already there. It's,
okay.
It's holding this little daughter card in place, so I just made use of it.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Thing upside down.
Nice.
Ray was selling them for about 16 bucks, or maybe a little more. And I went and picked it up when he was working at, one of the days he worked at UW. So just the whole thing. This I guess was the hardest part to get in, to tap into, because it had to actually share with this other wire, so
you had to be very careful when you soldered that.
Exactly. And now these are the two boards that are in there. One is the drive controller, and then the other is, of course, the Commodore 64 itself. I was also installing Jiffy DOS in there, which Morris sent me when I emailed him and PayPal him money.
When did this happen?
Well, like I said, I guess 2 or 3 years ago. So before
you ordered Jiffy DOS, paid it, and got it.
It was amazing. It came in 2 weeks.
I tried to call him.
Okay.
I don't know how many times. He doesn't even pick up the phone. I leave messages.
Yes, well, I'll go visit him someday. Alright. So anyways, the SID to SID, I've got 2 SIDs in there, and they're the 6581. And they sit on this nice little SID to SID card made by some guys in Germany. It's just basically a blank PCB, and you buy the components, and then you populate it yourself. And it's got stereo audio coming out. It shares the same ground, but I can show you what that looks like. And there's Jiffy DOS, of course. Jiffy DOS rules, right? Does it rule? Oh, Morris doesn't rule, but Jiffy DOS rules, right?
Well, Jiffy DOS would come along way before he
I
did.
cannot comment on that in Jiffy DOS because the camera is running.
Okay, and then I just I used long solder tails because nobody had installed SID to SID in the SX64. So I had to actually get it to clear some components on the other side of the car, or other side of the socket for the SID. There's just setup and testing. I built this little controller box which has 4 pots in there that control parameters within the Commodore 64 synth. It uses the 2 joystick ports.
So one question there, but
Yeah.
do you have some kind of analog to digital converter in that box?
No.
So
The joysticks are actually, these are equivalent to the paddles, the dual paddle.
Okay.
So basically it's just 2 pots, X and Y.
Okay.
So it's already analog. The ADD, I guess, would be somewhere in the computer.
Okay, you're using the paddle input, not the digital joystick input, the 4 bits. The 4 bits of directions plus the fire,
Yes,
you're not
exactly.
using those. Okay.
That's right. I'm using the analog.
Okay.
That's right. See, that's the inside of the messy box. I used an RJ45, basically Ethernet cable, because that's just what was around. It works. And what's this? Oh, is this the build? I think this is what I was telling you about. These are the 2 capacitors right here that I need to replace.
Yeah, that looks like an empty SID slot, as it is. You have removed the SID and...
Exactly. Yeah. And part of making use of this software is actually replacing these old capacitors. Not only can they get dried out over time, but they also, if you use a different set of capacitors, you can actually get more control out of the filter. And I'll be able to demonstrate that right here. This is what it looks like right now. You can tell this one is significantly louder. It's the polarity is kind of strange on there, and I'm wondering if that's because they share the same ground. There's two signal lines and one ground. So.
No, that shouldn't be the problem.
Yeah, well, they're inverted, outputting inverted like that. Or not really balanced, I guess. Anyway, so there's that. Now the name, this is a nameplate from a Prophet 5 synthesizer made from 1985 to about 82 or 83. They call this Prophet 64, but it really has nothing to do with the Prophet 5. It's more like the Roland TR series, which are pattern-based. The first thing I'm going to bring up is the bass line, which is basically a clone of the TB303 that Roland put out about in 1982 or something like that. In the late 80s, they were worth about $50, and then they started making happy hardcore with them and techno and things like that, and then they really increased in value. Now they go for like $1,300 on eBay. These have a couple of built-in demos. So I'm just going to load the demo here. I'll start it out without any effects.
Yeah, can you explain what equipment you have over there next to the SX64?
Yes, the
Can you
equipment.
explain what equipment you have? Yeah.
Oh, I'm just using a stereo, 2 powered speakers in stereo with a little mixer, and then I've got a modulation delay and a reverb that I'm just using to enhance the sound a little bit. I'm going to first show them without any effects, so they're dry. You can hear them. So these are basically pattern based. So this is just one of the SIDs. This is the other SID. You can hear that there's a bit of difference between the way that the filters sound. Now what you can do right now is you can use this little box to actually control the quality of the sounds. Two waveforms you can use. You can have a square or a sawtone. Control the tempo. It's got a few set patterns, so we can actually You can program your patterns into it. You can save them on disk. You can save them through the serial interface if you want to, SDR.
It saves them to disk?
Through the serial interface. You can save it. Yeah, one of these.
As what kind of file?
Right. Oh, it's an internal format, I believe.
Huh, okay.
So how many of these things can you load into the memory at once?
You can have 16 patterns.
Okay.
And you basically just control them as you go.
Yeah.
You can have up to 8 go in a sequence. So, for instance, you can have it go through 8 of them.
Okay.
I'm going to turn on some effects to make it sound good. So that's that one. The next thing we got is, that's basically for bass lines. And I'm going to load a mono synth. another thing. It basically has the same little sequencer as the TB303 and allows you to have 8 patterns with two sets, so you can have 16 patterns. And then again, you have a much more wider array of control though. You have basically 2 oscillators. You've got a filter, and you've got an amplitude. And both of these have their own envelope generators. Then you have a low frequency oscillator here. Got a bunch of cryptic shortcuts that I don't have to memorize.
Are these 2 patterns now? Are you interchanging back and forth?
I'm taking 4 patterns.
Okay.
Instead of the 5 patterns, when you really hear some of the quality and the color. That's showing the band pass filter.
Yeah. So currently, how many sounds in each set does it use? Do you know?
I know that it uses a combination of sounds.
Okay.
You can definitely hear the difference between the 2 sets.
Yeah.
The way that it sounds. And again, this has A and B. Do some pretty interesting stuff.
Rocks.
These kids go around quarters here for real. So that's that. It also has, let's see, show the drummer. So it's basically broken into 4 sets of programs. You got a drum machine, a mono-center bass line, and a sequencer.
So you're supposed to use the sequencer to create the patterns and then load them into monos.
Yeah, or you can use these separately and then sync them up via MIDI. That's one way you can do it. This drummer is obviously trying to be a clone of a TR-909. The sounds don't sound like a 909 at all, but there's no patterns with this, but it's a snare, 2 snares. Basically. Forget the sequence. that's one of the other problems. The sequencer is the only one that uses a mouse.
A mouse is in 1351?
Yeah, it's 1351 entirely.
Okay.
Okay, so basically this one is demonstration of the sequencer, demo track for the sequencer. Using 2 SIDs. It's got
6 sounds.
6 sounds. It's got a hi-hat, drums, bass line, something called bleed, something called chord, and then lead.
Okay.
Go in and mute each track. So right now we're just listening to the lead sound on that. You can also get into, you want to hear that lead track just by itself. And then we can add in the drums. So if you think about, like, you know, some of the music production stuff that we had for MossyCon4 way back when or whatever, this is kind of really progressed from that. A lot of the old stuff that used to have was just like a keyboard that would fit on top of the keyboard, like a piano-style keyboard. And you press keys. I mean, that was even one of the first programs I wrote when I was a kid. Is assign a tone to each, or a note to each letter, and use the keyboard that way to pick out melodies or whatever. And now you can actually, assemble a sequence of music here and actually play something, that's sort of in line with keeping the SID spirit.
So one question: where does the sounds get edited? Like, is it in this piece of the program that you decide the envelope for the lead sound should be attacked this much, released this much, sustained this much? The envelopes, the filters, where do they get set?
These, you actually have to, here they are right here. You got the instruments, when you select them, you've got all the parameters for the VCA, for the filter, or for the VCF, envelope generators, alpha, you got all of that in the sequencer.
Okay.
So that's why I was saying there's basically 4 separate programs, and they kind of have differing interfaces. They're not all uniform. So like the bass line and the monosynth and drums are meant to be run as separate programs that you would sync with your MIDI equipment or whatever. But the sequencer is specific for this set of sounds, which are really signature of the SID. I mean, they can't really do anything else better than that, right? So as far as learning about how it can import some of the demo scene stuff, I think that those are so specific to programming that they wouldn't work. But then again, this program really opens up the SID to have more dynamic range and a lot easier to manipulate than programming like you would in a demo scene. It is a bit noisy too. Like you can hear the video signal in there. But when you kill the screen, you get back to the sequencer. So when you get back to the sequencer, you actually kill the screen. Only when you're playing it. So it can actually be a bit quieter.
Oh yeah, quite a difference.
Yeah. And that works on all the other ones as well. But anyways, so that's my demo for MossyCon.
Hi everybody, this is my demonstration of Metal Dust 64 for the Commodore 64 and the Super CPU. You need a lot of memory here in the Super CPU. I believe the minimum requirements is 4 megs of RAM in the Super CPU to make Metal Dust work. The version I got was on 1580 discs. They give you 4 discs. The other disc is inside the FD4000 that's built into the SX64. Again, you need a Super CPU. If it doesn't have a Super CPU, you will not be able to run Metal Dust. So we're going to power it up. I have the directory here on Metal Dust over there. And we're going to start it up. I have write protected all of the disks because what Metal Dust tries to do is it tries to save your high scores onto, I believe, disk number 1. And when it does that, it messes up one of the files. And it corrupts your file. My disk doesn't work anymore. So yes, I'm doing a no-no. I am running the program off the original disk. These are not copies. So I'm taking chances using the original disk.
Hopefully the write protect isn't disabled.
No, there is no write protect switch. So here it starts with a little demo here with a little bit of music and graphics. Shows that. And then we have some music, but then if I push space, you can go past this title screen. Should I push space now, or do you guys want to hear the music?
Space.
Go ahead, okay. Space, the final frontier. Notice what we have. We have device selections, CDMs or CMDs or CMD HDs. You can install it to HD. You can install it to a Remlin. Other compatible device. I haven't figured out what that means. Other compatible device. Okay. And then we have the protocol selections. I'm not sure why those are checked like that. Okay, so we're going to. I think I needed a joystick to select these. Where's my joystick? Oh, here it is. Okay, well, we're going to notice that it's not joystick. We are going to push one of these, 8 for 81, F for FD, H for HD, or one of these other letters. So we will pick FD, and we will pick J for Jiffy Dubs, and then we'll push return. And nothing happens. We don't go on.
Select anything in that box.
I know, nothing's selected.
Well, I want to get a model of every.
That's not good.
Like a model in every machine.
Ah.
But we're gonna find.
There we go. I I was in the wrong joystick port. So the joystick is supposed to be in number 1, not number 2, because if I put the joystick in number 2, it was interfering with my selection. So I will go to FD. There we go. And I have Jiffy DOS.
The correct answer was joystick
Burst
port
mode is
number
only if
1.
you're using it in like a 128, C128 that can access the burst mode. I mean, if you're in C64 mode, you can use the 128 burst mode to load faster. So we're going to push return. Here we go. And it'll take a few seconds to load up, I hope. So I'm not sure what those things are on the screen. I guess those are spaceships flying through the galaxy.
With the explosion.
I thought it says Meta Louse. What?
Metal dust.
No, is that metal?
Metal dust.
Meta Louse. It looks like that. Meta Louse to me.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, it does look like metal louse.
Or metal house.
Like a painful anal discharge.
Okay, we'll edit this in the editing there, so it looks like. Okay, again we have another little screen here with the credits. Hey, we could get mock stereo here. There we go. 2 speakers. There, we can batch your 2 speakers. Ready? Okay. I'm going to push the button here and see what happens. Oh, there's the game code by Chester Kolshin? Yes, he was the person who worked on the operating system that became Wings eventually. He was part of what was the other operating system he was working on? Well, he became part of Wings.
Where Joss were in it, and the other.
Joss,
JOS and
there was Joel's McGinnis
and the other one.
Chester Kolshin.
Forget what his.
Joel's combined Joss
Bolby Mono?
with
Yeah, GOS and that some other
Chester,
operating system.
the other operating system. Okay, here we go. I push the button on the joystick. It says how many players. Hopefully it's just one player. No, one player. There, okay. Except for one player, except for music already on, except for FX1 on, except for good game level. Easy. All I have to do is push start.
It's on normal.
Oh.
Game level normal.
I died. Okay, here goes. Okay, I haven't played this in a while. Okay, it goes from the disc again. And David Holtz back in Convex 1 had a great deal of fun playing this. And he was a pretty good player too. I could never get as far as he could. He's out through many different stages. We'll edit this in editing there. We'll make it shorter. It'll look like it looks just like that. But of course, it's a trick of video editing. I think we're good too. Come on, baby. Come on, load faster.
You got a buck down first, though. I don't know if that's a good one.
There's somebody right on my Mac computer that Robert Bernardo is giving his presentation right now. Somebody get on the chat and say, hey, Robert is doing his presentation right now.
You expect me to do something?
All you do is type.
Stefan says cheers.
Cheers.
Nobody's
Come on, load faster, Super CPU. Load faster, Jiffy DOS.
The floppy disk is still slow.
There we go.
Yay!
Higher?
I think I need to change joysticks again.
Get ready.
Hold on.
Giant quickly.
There we go. Ah, okay. See, you can use 2 players with 2 joysticks. But it responds to commands from joystick 1 and then with joystick 2. Weird. Here we go. Oh, darn. Get ready. Boy, I'm bad. Really bad. So I shoot them. Okay, let me see if I can get to some of the other creatures. Oh, darn it all. Heck. Hey, our music turned off. I've got to turn back on the music somehow. I'm not sure how I turned off the music. Maybe if I read the instructions. I turned off the music somehow. So if I could get past this first level, there's more. Only if I stay up. I turned off the music and the voice effects also. Get ready. Okay, let's go for auto fire. Just fire like crazy. Yes. Poor game player. Power. Last one, guys. Then I'll have somebody else take over. Okay, I'll have to read the instructions to figure out how to turn back on the music.
This is just like so them white things in your chip world.
This is it.
I can't remember what that game was called. Huh? No. I can't remember that thing. I'm just hard.
I missed it. I missed my power.
I think it was on the Super Nintendo. I can't remember.
Yeah, maybe I'll figure out how to turn on the music. Game over. Hey, what's that? I think that's a planet exploding. It's supposed to be like a Star Wars explosion with the big ring of flame coming out. Look, I can put a high score. Yeah, I'm not gonna save anything for this.
You got all the early controller.
Okay, next demo.
Yeah, he's controlling victories.
What's happening is there?
How can that be?
The problem is.
So I'm very bad at this. I haven't had enough practice on this.
That removes those stupid references that.
This controls. This is acceleration, deceleration. Ailerons? What is the rudder and what is your ailerons? I'm so scared. Okay, guys, we're going on with our next demo because we're running out of time, says Steve, because he wants to get to the hotel room crash. But here we are. I picked this up from Jim Scareberry in Portland, Oregon a few weeks ago because he had this listed in his joysticks. I said, what is it? And it's the radio-controlled flight simulator for the Commodore 64. You pretend you're flying a model airplane from your nearby airport, and you see it here on the screen. So this is not Flight Simulator 2 by Microsoft or whatever. It was my Flight Simulator on that. This is radio-controlled model flight simulator. There is a new version out I forget for what system. Is it for Xbox or Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3? Where you get a box, a similar box, of course, modern looking with dual joysticks. But this is from 1984, I believe. If I know the copyright of this. Yeah, I think it's 1984 from Dave Brown Associates. And they built this box here with these joysticks. Now, these joysticks are not, I don't believe these are digital joysticks. These are analogs. And somehow they're connected in here into the Commodore. So you control acceleration, deceleration, and you control your other flight surfaces with this too, like ailerons and rudders. XY
And
position.
if I remember right, they used that same unit there in another program. They actually hooked it, hooked up the wheel.
He emphasizes in the instruction book that you cannot use regular joysticks with this program. You have to use the regular ones.
Right.
The regular Dave
The
Brown
analog joystick.
Here we go. So we're not going to set up the plane right now. We're just going to run the simulator. Okay. And even with Jiffy DOS in it, it still loads slow. So I believe it kicks out Jiffy DOS, unfortunately. Oh well. Center controls, sure, why not? Press return. Okay, thank you. So we do have. Oh, there we go. So we're on the runway right now. That's the runway. And I'm going to accelerate forward, and hopefully I'm going to take off. There we go, I'm taking off.
Now you're going to back up off.
And then notice my distance is 500. My altitude is 36. My thrust is 100, and my altimeter, my velocity. There's I'm going to make a turn now. I'm trying to turn back toward the camera here. And that little thing in the upper right corner is your radar screen. So, whoop. So. Oh yeah. I think I'm flipping over. Oh heck. Am I flying upside down? Well, in the instruction manual it says you can do loops and other things too with your airplane.
Yeah,
but so far I've been very good at nosediving this thing and crashing it into the ground as fast as possible. There we go. I'm heading straight for the ground.
Pull up right now, you might not hit the ground.
Oh!
Now you're going straight down.
There we go. Oh. 77 miles an hour. Oh, repair doesn't estimate $77. So here we go. I'm going to try and fly the thing. Here we go. Accelerate. And lift off, baby. Lift off. Here we go. So I'm supposed to be able to do aerobatic maneuvers with this thing.
Usually not 10 feet off the ground.
Can I do a loop? Try and do a loop.
Go up a little higher.
Go up a loop.
360.
Oh no, I couldn't do it. I started out.
I think you're not fast enough for that.
Oh.
And you have to drop it. And part of it, you have to drop your velocity.
I do?
Flip over.
I like this one now.
Come back toward the airplane. Come back. I'm not doing too good bringing the airplane back to me. Come back. Uh-oh. No. Come up. Come back toward me. Come back toward me. See, I could do this with a real model airplane at an airport, but of course I would crash it every time. It would cost me a lot of money to fix it or replace it. So I'm
probably looking at 2 to 3 times the numbers that they're showing.
Hey, it's going too far away from me. The distance is 1900. Oh, notice the sound has gone away because I am too far to hear the airplane. Come back toward the airplane. I don't even know. Come back toward the airplane. Okay, I haven't mastered how to get the airplane back to my position. I think it's coming back to me slowly but surely. It's zigging back to me. Zigzagging.
That's going away.
Okay, well, maybe I could land the airplane. They say you can land the airplane on the runway. I said, I can?
Depends on how you do it. Here.
Now I'm going too far away again. I'm 2,126 feet away. Oops.
Are you going to die? Crash.
I just crashed too far away. $54. Okay, wow. Now, if you just let the program just sit there, after a few minutes it says, something like, you have not gone anywhere. End of end of game or something like that. So there is a timer built into it if you don't, have any action with it. So, whoop. Oh no, I'm accelerating. Engine off. Anyone want to try their luck at trying to fly this thing here?
Action.
Okay, you're going. What?
Oh, okay, sorry.
Hi there.
There's 127 games in here. All right, well, and this is Robert's, but Robert, please. It has Congo Bongo. Who the hell wants to play Congo Bongo?
I don't know.
I do. I want to play Congo Bongo.
Okay, well, go ahead. Play Congo Bongo.
Joystick 1. Oh, I hit 2. Crap.
You'll have to play with a keyboard? Wow, look at that.
How do you make the guy...
I don't know. I've never played this with a keyboard before. Okay, turn it off, turn it back on.
Well, he's jumping. That's what he's doing.
Turn it off, turn it back on.
Okay.
There you go.
This gives you a chance to film the entire and complete booting system.
Well, let's try... Hey, it has artillery duel.
Artillery duel.
It has it. I thought that was an internet craze.
Wow, I'm getting terrible interference patterns off the screen here. Oh, there we go.
F1 for
Donkey Kong.
Okay. F1.
Still never found the donkey.
There we go.
Oh,
Somebody has to say.
F1 start.
Not that big ugly guy there.
Hey, it's not bad. That's not bad.
So I have not yet tried all 127 games on the thing.
So how did Mario learn how to jump a lot better? Now he's not very good at jump. Whoa!
Oh.
He's not a good jumper, is he?
No, not in
There you
this
go.
one. I mean, if this was the Nintendo, or I mean not the Nintendo one, but the No. Okay, that's it.
What a demo. Applause for Steve. Yay!
127 banks of piracy.
Whoa, not 127
And look,
banks of piracy.
he says, thanks, Robert.
And it says FL. Francois Levelier.
Oh, that guy.
Oh, that guy. Yes, a Slapian. Oh, that guy.
Made
Okay.
in Canada. Okay.
Canada. Oh, gosh.
Wow, made by a Canadian.
Now,
This is the 32K RAM expander,
and
the
with
predecessor.
with the Gothic industrial glaze treatment.
Gothic.
I guess he wanted to prevent users from destroying their or shocking themselves or destroying the chips.
That's right. I don't
Is that
know.
it?
I don't know.
Or either that, or
It's a protective covering. There you go.
Either that, he
In lieu of a plastic cart, since you cannot fit a plastic, a regular Vic cartridge. Mr. DeMille. Hi there.
All right.
Well, this is my short demo here, really short, because once again I forgot to bring a power supply, an external power supply, to run these little boards here. But this is the MMC to IEC board that's sold from nkcelectronics.com in Florida. You can buy this board here with MMC to IEC firmware, or you could buy the same board with SD to IEC firmware. What's the difference? Well, both boards take little SD cards to save your software, load your software and save your software on these little cards here. But the SD to IEC board is more compatible. It understands Jiffy DOS. It understands more commands, whereas the MMC board is firmware is more brain dead. So I would show it to you, but I forgot my 9-volt power supply. Unless I go to Radio Shack and go to Radio Shack and buy a power supply. There you go.
The windstorm has been a couple 3 months past. It's not that bad around here anymore.
He's trying to give it some kind of artsy-fartsy quality to
No, he's giving the usable documentary.
Oh, the document.
Oh well, if you want that, then I'll do it like this.
Heck,
No, that's me after all the beer I had today.
I'll just dance everybody has.
No, you're not that fit.
So if I go to Radio Shack, I'll get a power supply and then put this in. There you go, and then it'll work it. Work it, baby, work it.
All right, we got 4
Yeah,
Hey,
minutes.
that's it. Okay,
One
cut,
small
cut, cut,
question.
cut. Yes.